Welcome to Business Women Australia's radio show. I'm Sally Barker. Each week I'll be talking with a leading member of BWA. These inspiring business leaders are very generous in sharing their stories, insights and expertise. Joining me on the show today is Vida Carlino from Inspiration Source and Lynn Hawkins, Company Director. How are you, ladies?
Very well.
Now, Vida, you are the author of the book My Power Statement, and that's exactly what we're talking about today, power statements.
Exactly. I mean, this book is a simple, easy tool to transform an unresourceful state into a more resourceful state. So it's stepping from maybe what's not working for you into your power state.
Okay, well, what is a power statement?
It's a very simple statement that goes like this. How would, and then you fill in the gap. Feel, think and act in this moment, and then you do that. For example, how would Richard Branson feel, think and act in this moment? And it's not just about talking about it, it's doing it. How would he feel? How would he think? How would he act? And in that moment, do that. If I'm to say to myself, Vida, be more confident, be more certain in this moment, if I don't feel like that, it's very hard to do. But if I say I'm taking on the identity of somebody else, it is much easier to step into that power.
Okay, and this is where we're talking about faking it until we make it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, we are faking it, but when we are faking it, the thing is we're really being ourselves. I don't know how Richard Branson's going to feel. I think he'd be really calm and relaxed. He'd be very comfortable in his own skin. So I'll do that. I don't know how he's going to act, but I'm pretty sure he'd be very confident, decisive in decisions. He wouldn't care what other people think. He'd just go ahead and do it anyway.
So you trick yourself.
Yeah, in some way you do. You trick yourself. So it bypasses all my insecurities and inadequacies and fears because I'm being that identity for a moment.
Because that's what we do find in business and leadership, and especially with women in business. We have that sort of imposter syndrome. We have those insecurities.
Absolutely, we all do.
That's right. It's interesting. Amy Cuddy's just been on a tour around Australia, and she's been talking about the research they've done at Harvard around body, the way that you sit, the way you stand, your posture, the way you can open out your chest and put your legs apart and stand in a power pose, and it actually sends a chemical to your brain that tells your brain that you're actually not vulnerable, you're powerful, you're strong, you're going to be okay. And so it is, in a similar way, I think using a power statement sends a message to your brain that actually I'm not going to be in this part of who I might be, but I'm going to be me, that is that powerful, strong person, and I'm going to be good. And I'm going to achieve in a different way. So it sort of triggers new ways, new thoughts, new reactions, and a lot of that is a chemical thing, and a lot of research is now showing that to be the case. So it's exciting times because I think it's intuition, but it's also being evidenced through a lot of the studies that are being done at the various universities and science groups.
There is so much research on this sort of work at the moment. There's a lot of research on your three brains. There is actually three brains now. Your head brain, your heart brain and your gut brain, and they all function as a brain. So by using those words feel, think and act, you're actually starting the three brains to ignite and work together on a common identity.
So should we have a plan? Should we have a plan? So when we find ourselves in a situation where we need to use one of these power statements, we don't go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Should we have a plan? Like we've thought of this person who really makes us feel powerful in that instance. Is that what we should do?
I don't think you need a plan. Right? It's a natural process. The idea of power statements is they're quick, easy and simple. So I'm going to go on stage and do a talk and I'm nervous out the front. So what would I say? I'd say, okay, how would Lynn Hawkins act right now? How would she feel? How would she think? I'd pull my shoulders back. I'd stand taller. Straight away I got my physiology involved. Already the chemicals in my brain are changing. How would she feel? Confident. How would she breathe? So I'm sending all these messages to my whole three brains on how to be that person. And I'm just stepping into it for a moment. So I'm not trying to get rid of the nerves. I'm not even putting any focus on the nerves. I'm putting all the focus on this identity.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, should you have someone in mind, someone who you do use on a regular basis?
Absolutely. You could just have, how would a confident speaker be?
Yes. Okay.
So it's whatever's natural for you.
Yes.
I try to, when it's simple, when something's simple, it's like whatever comes. instead of trying to make it work into a label of this person or that person, whatever comes for you.
Yeah,
often I use people, and often I just use, how can I feel happy right now?
See, smiling's a great thing too. You know, when I've found that I've been a bit low in my mood or what have you, forcing myself to smile and look and say, yeah, hey, you know, I've got a lot to be grateful for. Pull on the gratitude piece, smile. And that has been shown through research to send chemicals to your brain as well to trigger, well, I'm more happy. They did this study with students, and they actually got them to have almost a forced smile by putting a like a pen or something in their mouths. And they did some research, and they actually found that they had more positive attitudes to things, you know, when they were putting them into lab situations. So they found that this is actually, you know, there's that correlation. So there's also the triggers between music, you know, and how music can change and uplift our moods. And also by telling ourselves that we're going to be okay, that things are going to be good, that we're going to be good at what we're about to do, and having the right music and uplifting audio, that it can actually, again, put us into that change of mindset and new state.
So something as simple as saying,
yeah,
you know what, actually, I am really good at this.
Yes.
Yes, it actually does tell your brain that you're good at it.
And the minute you said that, you smiled and you pulled your shoulders back and put your head up.
You did that.
So it happens from the mind to the body, and the body to the mind, and the emotions. It happens 3 ways, 3 directions.
Okay. So what would you suggest if someone, this is very new, this is a very new concept to some of our listeners, what would you suggest? What's the first baby step we take?
I would take just trying it on. Try on the power statement. And pick something simple, like how would I feel more enthusiastic today? So if I want to feel enthusiastic, how do I act enthusiastic? Where do I think to be enthusiastic? And just play with it for a while. Then try it on. Because it's one thing to have theory, but theory doesn't change anything. It's putting it into action. So, you know, it's like when you learn to ride a bike. You don't know how to do it to start with. You just got to take little steps and perfect it.
And be prepared to fall off a few times.
Absolutely. And you just get better at it. It's natural to think about how good we are. It's natural to use our skills and talents. It's just sometimes we forget that.
Yeah. All right, so we've taken our first baby step, and we've used that term, fake it until we make it. How do we know we've actually made it? Or do we ever?
Well, I think everything's a work in progress. So, I mean, some things we make it. It's a defined thing. Like, okay, I'm going to do this talk. I did that talk. Right? So you can measure those sort of things. But a lot of things are just work in progress. As human beings, we're always just evolving and growing. So
is it important to go back and reflect, like you just said, you know, I've just done that talk and I did really well during that talk. Is it important to go back and, you know, if you are feeling a bit vulnerable and, you know, we've used our power statement, but then to go back and sort of say, well, actually, yeah, I did that. Oh, I did all of that. Is that important?
I think it is if you're actually building yourself up. Okay. If you're going, okay, if you can recognise it without too much judgment, yeah, I did a good job then. Great. That's easy to feel good about. It's like, okay, well, I didn't do such a good job, but at least I got up there and at least I got past those nerves and I've made a step forward. So if you can evaluate yourself with consideration and care and kindness for what you've done, then for sure. But if you can't, if you're going to be critical of yourself, leave it. Then try on another power statement.
Yeah.
You're always a great one, Vida, for getting us to step back and celebrate our achievements, you know, and I think being busy business owners and managers in companies and juggling life and all the things that go on, we quite often don't spend that time out to really stop and celebrate. And maybe that's a really good. Who should we be channeling? Who's the greatest ones to celebrate their achievements? Probably Richard Branson.
I put him in a lot of things. But even your friends. Like I have this one friend who is just so happy all the time. And she's not faking it. She's generally like that. I've known her for 20 plus years. She's always like that. I'll try her on all the time.
Yeah.
What would she do? Yeah, so
that's great.
It's what works for you. It's not like trying to make it what other people do. What works for you is what it's all about. And that's how you be a great leader.
Well,
I've
loved
in yourself.
all these little tools. You know, when I went through these tools in your book, you know, I really got a lot out of it for myself. You know, I sort of thought, well, you know, some of the things around here, around taking the moment out to to think about what is getting the most attention in your life, what's playing out in your life, just taking stock of that, I thought was really, for me, it was almost a selfish task, because my whole life has been focused on looking after everybody else, focusing on their needs, considering what they need, where they're going. I really hadn't taken time out to think about me and what's going on for me, and what's going to be important for me going forward. And so these kinds of sort of power statements, and then spending that time thinking about and taking stock of where you're at right now, I found to be invaluable. And was a fun little sort of approach. It was really happy. So, I was thinking, well, what are the things how do I want to be different? I want to be capable. I want to be happy. I want to be more conscious and mindful and in the moment. These were the things to be connected to people around me. And I started to realise that a lot of the things that are actually really important to me, I hadn't really articulated before. And I was thinking more in terms of, I want to grow the business, I want to get out to every state, I want to, the metrics in my head were actually stopping me from really looking at what was most important in my life, which was my family and my relationships and my friendships.
Yeah.
And it's such a common thing for so many of us are so busy in our lives now. And our lives are based on striving and achieving, which are beautiful things, but they don't fill your soul.
No.
They're not intimate enough for us to be really fulfilled by them. They're great and we enjoy it, but we need time to actually reflect on ourselves from time to time. And the beauty of this sort of thing, it's quick and it's easy and it's simple. Meditation to me is the best practice in mindfulness, but for a lot of people that's quite challenging. And it takes some deliberate attention and time where this takes deliberate attention, but it's a short period of time. So, I'm not saying I think it's meditation. I'm a meditator myself. But to start with, just becoming a little bit more aware and mindful can lead you to those sort of things. And this is a simple start.
Well, can you give our listeners a simple task that they can go away with, where they can kick off this process of, more reflective behaviours, not focusing on themselves?
One simple thing is just to pause, the power of pause. So throughout your day, set a little timer on your phone and stop for a moment and pause and just notice what you're doing. What are you feeling right now? Are you in reaction? Great pausing when someone speaks before you answer and just saying, am I just reacting to something? Well, what is it that I really want to express in this moment? How do I feel in this moment? Just pausing will bring you back to getting to know who this person is again.
I mean, and that brings you to mindfulness, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Pause, have a breath.
Yeah, exactly. It brings you back to awareness, which is mindfulness. Yeah.
Oh, wow, wonderful. That's fabulous information today. Thank you so much for joining us on Businesswomen Australia's radio show. Vida Carlino from Inspiration Source and Lynn Hawkins, Company Director.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks, Sally.